Philippines are no longer calm. They are now watched by the world. Day after day, more and more warships are sailing into the region. You see American destroyers, Japanese vessels, Australian fleets, and even ships from Europe. All of them are heading toward one place. The Philippines has suddenly become the center of attention, and the reason is bigger than most people realize. For many years, the Philippines was known for its beauty and culture. Tourists came to the islands. Workers were celebrated around the world for their skills and their spirit. The country was not seen as a key player in global security. But now things are different. The Philippines has moved from the background to the front line of one of the most important issues in the world. At the heart of this issue is the South China Sea. This sea is not just water. It is the highway of the global economy. Trillions of dollars worth of goods move through it every single year. Energy, food, technology, and raw materials all depend on safe passage across this route. Whoever controls this sea has influence over the lifeline of the world economy. And right in the middle of it is the Philippines, standing at a point that no nation can ignore. But the story goes deeper. Beneath the waters are huge reserves of oil and natural gas that could supply energy for decades. These seas are also home to rich fishing grounds that feed millions of people. Control over this area means control over food, energy, and money. That is why the South China Sea has become one of the most contested regions on Earth. And that is why warships are now appearing around the Philippines. At the center of the tension is China. Over the years, it has claimed almost the entire South China Sea. It has built artificial islands and turned them into heavily armed bases. Even though international courts have ruled against these claims, China continues to press forward. This puts smaller countries like the Philippines directly in its path, and that is where the risk of conflict grows. The Philippines is not alone. The United States has promised to defend it through a long-standing treaty. Japan, South Korea, and Australia have joined in because their trade routes also depend on these waters. Even countries as far as the United Kingdom, France, and Canada have sent ships to show that freedom of navigation must be protected. The presence of these navies is a message to the world. It says the Philippines will not be left to face this threat alone. So why is everyone sending warships to the Philippines? Because the Philippines has become the key to peace, trade, and security in Asia. Before we go deeper, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you can stay updated on the growing role of the Philippines in global affairs. And here is something to think about. If tensions ever turn into a real war, which countries would back the Philippines and which ones would side with China? We already explained this in a full video, and you can find the link in the description. Now let's begin. The South China Sea is not just a body of water. It is one of the most important regions on Earth. Every year, around 1/3 of the world's trade passes through it. That means if these waters are blocked, the global economy would feel the shock immediately. Tankers carrying oil from the Middle East, ships loaded with food, and vessels filled with electronics all move through this narrow stretch of sea. Without it, factories would stop, markets would collapse, and entire countries would face shortages. This is why so many nations care about what happens here. But the problem is that China has claimed almost the entire area as its own. It uses what is called the 9-dash line, a claim that stretches thousands of kilometers and covers waters that also belong to the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and other neighbors. In 2016, the International Court ruled that China's claims had no legal basis. Yet, China ignored the decision and kept building artificial islands, turning them into military bases with runways, radar systems, and missiles. For the Philippines, this is more than just a legal battle. It is about fishing rights, energy resources, and the safety of its people. Fishermen have been blocked, harassed, and sometimes chased out of waters that legally belong to them. Energy exploration projects have been delayed because of Chinese pressure. Every move by China challenges the sovereignty of the Philippines. This dispute is not only a regional issue, it is a global one. If one country can control these waters by force, then the idea of freedom of navigation is threatened everywhere. That is why allies of the Philippines have stepped in, sending their ships to make sure that the sea remains open. The South China Sea has become the front line of a struggle between international law and raw power, and the Philippines is caught right in the middle. As tensions rise in the South China Sea, one country has made its presence strongly felt, and that is the United States. For decades, the U.S. has been a close ally of the Philippines, and their military partnership goes back to World War II. Today, this relationship is becoming more important than ever. The U.S. has defense agreements with the Philippines, which means if the Philippines is attacked, America is obligated to respond. This is why American ships and aircraft are seen more frequently in the region. They are not just passing through, they are showing commitment to keep the sea lanes open and to stand by their ally. Recently, the U.S. and the Philippines expanded their security pact, allowing American forces access to more Philippine bases. This is not about building permanent bases, but about rotational presence, training, and quick response if a crisis happens. For the Philippines, this provides an extra layer of protection. For the U.S., it ensures they remain a balancing force in Asia. American warships regularly conduct what are called freedom of navigation operations. These missions challenge China's claims by sailing through waters that international law says are open to everyone. Each time this happens, it sends a message that no single country can close off such a vital route. The U.S. presence does not only mean ships and planes, it also means joint exercises, military training, disaster response cooperation, and intelligence sharing. All of these strengthen the Philippine military, which is still modernizing. In short, the U.S. acts as both a shield and a partner, reminding the world that the Philippines is not standing alone. The United States may be the Philippines' oldest defense partner, but it is not acting alone. Two of Asia's strongest economies and militaries, Japan and South Korea, are also stepping in. Their involvement adds even more weight to the growing presence around the Philippines. Japan has transformed its defense posture in recent years. Once limited by its pacifist constitution, it is now building one of the most advanced navies in the world. Japan has already donated Coast Guard ships and radar systems to the Philippines, boosting its ability to patrol its waters. Recently, Japanese forces have joined joint naval exercises, sailing side by side with both Philippine and American ships. This shows Japan is ready to stand firm for freedom of navigation and regional stability. South Korea, too, has become a valuable security partner. It has provided the Philippines with modern fighter jets, naval vessels, and military training. South Korea shares its own experience of living under constant threat from its northern neighbor, and this makes its support for the Philippines even more meaningful. Like Japan, South Korea also participates in military drills in the region, proving that it sees the South China Sea as vital to its own security and trade. Together, Japan and South Korea are not only supporting the Philippines, but also signaling to China that it is facing a united front. These countries depend heavily on the shipping lanes that pass through Philippine waters, and they cannot afford to let one power dominate them. Their cooperation shows that defending the Philippines is also about defending Asia's future. The Philippines is not only gaining support from its Asian neighbors, the momentum has now stretched far beyond the region, with Australia and even European powers stepping into the picture. Their involvement proves that the situation in the Philippines is no longer just a local matter, but a global concern. Australia has long been one of the Philippines' closest security partners. Both countries share deep defense ties under the regional alliances built with the United States. In recent years, Australia has sent warships and aircraft to join patrols in the South China Sea. It has also increased military training exercises with Filipino forces, making sure they can work seamlessly together in real-world situations. Australia understands that if freedom of the seas is threatened in Asia, it will eventually affect its own security and trade routes. What makes this even more significant is the arrival of European powers. Nations like France, Germany, and the United Kingdom have started sending their naval ships to sail through the same contested waters. These are not symbolic visits. They are a clear statement that Europe, too, sees the South China Sea as critical to global stability. France, for example, has territories in the Pacific and considers itself a Pacific power. The United Kingdom has deployed its aircraft carriers alongside allies, showing that even countries from the other side of the world are willing to defend international law. By joining these operations, Australia and Europe send a powerful message. The Philippines is not standing alone, and the world is paying close attention. The presence of warships from half a world away tells China that its actions in the region are being watched by more than just its neighbors. It is a sign that the defense of the Philippines is connected to the defense of global order. All this international support would not be complete without the Philippines itself stepping up. Alongside foreign allies sending warships, the Philippines has been quietly upgrading its own military. This shift marks a new era where the country is no longer only depending on others, but is taking real steps to strengthen its defense. For many years, the Philippine armed forces were seen as underfunded and under-equipped compared to its neighbors. But today, that is changing. Billions of pesos are now being invested in modern warships, fighter jets, submarines, and advanced radar systems. The Philippines has also been improving its Coast Guard, giving it more power to patrol the waters and protect fishermen in disputed areas. What makes this upgrade even more important is how it connects with allied forces. New bases and facilities are being built that can host American, Japanese, and Australian troops during joint exercises. Every year, the scale of these drills grows larger, training Filipino soldiers to handle high-tech equipment and coordinate with international navies. This new push for modernization shows that the Philippines is not just relying on others to protect it. It is building a credible defense of its own. And when combined with the support of allies, it creates a strong signal to the world that the Philippines is serious about protecting its sovereignty. But behind all of these upgrades and alliances stands the main reason warships are gathering in Philippine waters, and that is China. Over the past decade, China has rapidly expanded its presence in the South China Sea, building artificial islands, installing runways, and deploying military equipment. What used to be open sea is now covered with bases that extend China's reach far beyond its own coastline. For the Philippines, this expansion is more than a distant issue. Chinese Coast Guard ships regularly enter waters claimed by the Philippines, sometimes blocking fishermen and even shadowing Philippine vessels. Each of these actions adds more tension to an already fragile situation. It is not simply a question of disputed territory, it is about control of one of the world's most important trade routes. China argues that most of the South China Sea belongs to it, even though international courts have rejected those claims. The Philippines, backed by global law, continues to assert its rights. This constant clash of views has turned the Philippines into the front line of a much larger power struggle. The China factor is what makes every allied warship in the region carry greater meaning. These deployments are not just friendly visits. They are signals that the world is watching closely and that no single country can claim the sea for itself. Filipinos, this situation is not only about ships and bases. It is about their daily lives, their security, and their future. When Chinese vessels block local fishermen, families lose their income. When tensions rise in the South China Sea, people worry about the possibility of conflict near their shores. The issue is not far away. It touches the livelihood of ordinary citizens. At the same time, many Filipinos feel a sense of pride, seeing their country supported by powerful allies. The arrival of American, Japanese, and Australian warships sends a message that the Philippines is not standing alone. For a nation that has long defended its independence, this support strengthens both confidence and unity. Still, there are mixed emotions. Some welcome the stronger foreign presence, while others fear being caught between great powers. Filipinos want peace above all, but they also want their country's rights and dignity to be respected. This balance between security, sovereignty, and stability is what makes their perspective so important in understanding why the Philippines matters to the world today. Looking ahead, the Philippines finds itself at the center of one of the most important challenges of our time. The gathering of warships shows that the world is preparing for a future where control of the seas will shape trade, security, and even peace itself. For Filipinos, this moment is both a warning and an opportunity. If handled wisely, the presence of allies can strengthen the country's defenses, attract more investment, and give ordinary citizens greater protection. But if tensions continue to grow, the Philippines could face pressure from both sides of a global rivalry. The decisions made today will decide whether the seas become a bridge for cooperation or a line of conflict. For the rest of the world, what happens in Philippine waters will not remain local. It will influence global trade, international law, and the balance of power in Asia. That is why so many nations are watching closely, because the Philippines now stands at the front line of the future. As we return to the question of why so many warships are being sent to the Philippines, the answer is clear. This small nation has become a focal point of global attention, not only because of its location, but because of what it represents. The Philippines is now the meeting ground of powerful countries, each with its own interests, but all recognizing its importance. For Filipinos, this moment highlights both the challenges and the pride of living in a land that the world cannot ignore. It shows that their country holds a key role in shaping the future of Asia and even the wider world. Whether it leads to greater peace or greater conflict will depend on the choices made in the years ahead. One thing is certain, the story of the Philippines is no longer just its own. It has become a story watched by nations far and wide, a story that will help decide the direction of global history. And so, when we ask why everyone is sending warships to the Philippines, we now understand that it is not just about territory or power. It is about the future balance of the world, and the Philippines is right at the center of it. This is a reminder that global stories are not only written in Washington or Beijing, but also in Manila, where decisions will ripple across oceans. If you found this video informative and you want to see more content that explains global events in simple and engaging ways, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue creating videos that bring clarity to the events shaping our world. Stay tuned, because the story of the Philippines and the South China Sea is far from over.